So based on a talk I had with a man named Yoni, Benchamou, or Ben, something like that. So he was publicly defamed. He says there's a trauma of defamation. He says that being attacked from, basically he didn't give his wife a divorce, and he was there was a smear campaign, and I'm not taking sides, I'm just sharing what we could learn from him, whether he's right or wrong. Being attacked from behind, having to try to have eyes in the back of the head the whole time, infected with a worry that people are debating if he's a good guy or a bad guy. A rabbi says he's a murderer. He's murderable, but without being incriminated legally. Friends turn into enemies overnight. There's an escalation, exaggeration of the rumors, and things are twisted in perception. Fake voice, scared to speak or make a mistake, no support, socializing to relieve the isolating tendency, cannot trust people even though feeling very lonely and not seeing any way out, waiting helplessly for something to change without agency or proactivity, self-sabotaging, people-pleasing, trying to get away with using, lying, cheating, stealing, and not living in proper balance, staying in denial, doubting the mutual love, and sleeping problems, feeling attached to an ex, trying to agree on everything, but it masks projection. I was also having a conversation with a man named Kohn, Dovid Kohn. And he was saying it's hard for, I was saying to him that it was hard for me to trust him with a space when I don't feel loved securely, proactively, loved without influence. Also, when I'm able to feel that someone's companion enough to not abandon me when or if I'm not needed for anything by them. It really felt conditional. I didn't feel good in that. It didn't feel secure. And I was thinking about all this, and I was just thinking it is kind of like, and something was clicking for me. It's lonely to be a man in a way, because a man lets go of cleaving to mom and then latches onto a woman. Then unfortunately he might need to start again. Sometimes he's not loved, he's pushed off, he waits, lonely for someone else to hold on to because he's not over his ex yet. He may need to be a baby, then a little boy, then a young man, then raised, by the woman as a man. And I went to a coda meeting, Codependency Anonymous, and we were having, I don't know if it was a topic meeting, but I think of security. So someone else can't make me feel secure, acceptable, redeemable, tolerable, or like I belong if they don't feel secure with themselves. And I noticed that I reflexively will find flaws in myself to explain to myself why I'm being rejected. When or if I reflect versus the reacting, I see it's actually not just that the person was being mean or rejected, rather they are limited and have to love me in the background rather than me needing that direct, constantly, contacting to prove that they love me when they really might not, which often manifests as friction because it's too much closeness. In other words, things can cause chafing, which is exactly the opposite of soothing. Too much closeness doesn't always cause soothing, it could cause chafing. And in Taanis, 10a and b, the sages taught in a Baraita the land of Egypt is 400 parasangs by 400 parasangs, and this is a 60th the size of Cush, and Cush is a 60th the size of the rest of the world, and the world is a 60th the size of the Garden of Eden, and the Garden of Eden is a 60th of Eden itself, and Eden is a 60th of Gehenna, and you can find the entire world as like a pot cover for Gehenna, as Eden, which is far larger than the rest of the world, is only a 60th of the size of Gehenna. And some say Gehenna has no measure, and some say that Eden has no measure. The libtavitcher rebbe teaches that mankind in general is motivated by an innate self-concern because of the souls of the people at large are rooted in the external dimension of his will, God's will. This leads to a mistake in their worldview, since their souls are rooted in a level of godliness that serves as the source for intermediaries that enable our world to come into existence. The intermediaries are significant to them. As a result, their focus is immediate, the makeup of the world they see it, as they see it. The concept that they exist solely for the sake of the fulfillment of God's inner desire is inherently foreign to them, like a workaholic who has lost sight of the goal for which he works, and the work itself becomes a goal, and he is focused on the tasks in front of him alone. I want to pause and say that some of the blessings I gave in the last video were inspired in the video for the Sabbath, which is for tomorrow, but the video I recorded earlier for the Sabbath, before this video, which is for yesterday. So the blessings are from Esther Malka Stewart. So this video is like for Wednesday, and the video previously, which I just posted, is actually for Friday. And today is Thursday. So Esther Malka Schwartz gave inspiration with the blessings. She's in the description as credited. So I'm going to repeat the last sentence we just learned. Like a workaholic who's lost sight of the goal for which he works, and the work itself becomes a goal, and he is focused on the tasks in front of him alone rather than realizing they're bringing him closer to his goal. I want to share the 12 promises from an SLAA group. This is Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. This idea of soothing and not chafing. So basically, so we don't have to talk about the sex addiction. It just puts together love. You could say sex, love, avoidant, romance, all of that. Avoidant or anxious or attached, any kind of, way. So they say these are the promises when you do the inner work, when you show up and stop avoiding or attaching. I have a new sense of freedom because I'm letting go of the past. There are 12 promises. I'll read through them. I'm hopeful about my future relationships. I can be attracted to someone without falling in love overnight, and I can fall in love without obsessing. If love doesn't overwhelm me, I don't act out in addictive. If love does overwhelm me, I don't act out in addictive ways. I can tell the difference between fantasies and realities. I do not have to control the ones I love, nor let them control me. I experience relationships one at a time, and I don't give my power away to unavailable people. I experience relationships one at a time, and I don't give my power away to unavailable people. If my basic needs are not being met, I can end my relationship. I can leave anyone who's abusing me, in either verbally, physically, or emotionally. I do not do for others what they should be doing for themselves. I love myself as much as I love others, and I look to my higher power, my God, Hashem, for strength, guidance, and the willingness to change. There's a technique they teach in a different group, ACA. It's called non-dominant handwriting. And it's a way to connect to your maybe subconscious or repressed self. So I wrote, I wrote, and I'm saying he because I'm reading the first thing. I don't like Aaron. This is what I was hoping to connect with my inner self, to speak up in ways that maybe I don't spend enough time to reflect with. So based on information. So this is what I wrote with my left hand. I don't like Aaron. He tries to embarrass me. He loves me more than he ever loved anyone, yet something is still missing for me. I gave up sleep among many other time-bound activities, yet he still wouldn't commit to be my companion. I don't like too much crudeness and the bullying and the insecurity and not being proactive as a coward. He isn't brave enough. I'm doing too much work. I am more valuable than him. He is a real Kohn and I can't marry him. Because I had told him I'm disqualified from marrying a Kohn, because the modern rabbis say that if you have any kind of cloudiness in your past, if you may have been intimately with a non-Jew, then you shouldn't marry a Kohn, even though that's not written in the Torah, but the Torah was written by a rabbi named Moshe Rabbeinu, our rabbi. This is what non-dominant handwriting might look like. It's completely different than regular handwriting. And it's actually very hard physically with your muscles of your hand. Your wrist, hand, arm muscles. It takes so much, like all of the muscles in different parts of my arm seem to get involved. And then I did an activity called Aaron as a movie screen. He likes to, I'm seeing him, and it's possible that I'm projecting, but I'm willing to own this is what I'm seeing. He likes to see himself from the outside. He needs a lot of attention and affection, validation, reassurance, admiration, honor, recognition, positive feedback. He wants to have all the control and choice and authority and say to avoid being vulnerable. He points out flaws, corrects, dictates. He likes to debate, interrupts, corners, negates, backs you into a corner, tries to cause you to doubt. Crude and rude words and comments. Took something I said out of context more than once and used it against me, at least with once religion, not religious, versus being not self-labeling as the word religious. And two, that if he sexually pleasures me, it would be meaningless pleasure, but I said nothing like that. Now, the last 12-step group I wanted to bring up here was, and one more thing, we did an activity where I said new skills from Aaron from Shayna that Aaron, like we did something where we said what the other needs to learn or their faults or something. So he says, after I shared various comments, I just wrote based on my journaling was my reflections, and I'd spoken to him about it, and he couldn't really hear at that time probably anything I said. Immediately he had to share some faults of mine. So he said interrupting men when they're talking, crying foul when lying, demanding, commanding, viewing people as projects, forcing a response, explosive responses, takes feelings, and abandonment. Now, I would say that he might be responsible for a lot of these dynamics if it is true that I behave in that way to him. And yet at the same time, I just told him a bunch of those things about him. And I had been telling him those things about him. So it's very strange. That's exactly. And then he was saying that there's things I should learn based on what I told him to stop doing to me, like to stop always being a lawyer. And I gave him a bunch of examples. I said, could he be non-judgmental? Could he just be a witness? Could he stop being so reactive? Could he be accepting? Could he try to understand me? Like, he was always the other against me. So he was saying, and then he flipped it all back. He said, oh, you need to learn silent observation to understand and not testify, not out people, and not bring God into the equation. So that was something that I wouldn't tell him. I'm not going to not bring God into the equation. He says, don't stipulate. You need more patience. You need a reality check. You need understanding. I said understanding, and I think I said non-judgmental. But anyway, I want to share from OA. This is the last thing for today. From the AA and Alcoholics Anonymous 12 and 12 book. I'm not in the Alcoholics Anonymous. There's 12 steps, 12 traditions. So this OA meeting, which is Overeaters Anonymous, this is what I got out of that meeting. So there's a part where it says we can make a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And it says a misguided moral inventory can result in guilt, grandiosity, blaming others, and how self-justification is dangerous, and willingness to take inventory actually brings new light and confidence, new confidence. So there's a lifetime practice of facing the common symptoms of emotional insecurity, which is worry, anger, self-pity, and depression. And when this is all from their literature, from the AA 12 and 12 book, when instincts exceed proper function, extremes in our drives, like the dominating versus driving us, or insisting, ruling our, this kind of energy, tyrannizing, ruling our lives, like material or emotional security, sex, having an important place in society, we might give these things too much importance, these drives. So, I was thinking, how does this apply? This is what I said. I said, today I had a tantrum against Aaron. I was angrily screaming. This is months ago, but I wrote, cursing and fighting. And I realized that it was information about what others' limits and abilities are, and that my higher power had a good plan for me where I don't have to oppress, force, control someone. I realized I spent too much time helping people recently. Bunya, Bobby, Aaron, Yoni, Michael, and Warren didn't make myself important to myself. I didn't take care of myself. I spread myself too thin, but I didn't need to make a void where I needed me hoping another would fill it. Also, my desire for pleasure and love has robbed me of 11 hours of sleep this week. And I just wanted to add that Aaron refused to be honest and committed, and he wanted to reserve the right to be able to be with other women while still trying to force me to be in a type of relationship that I didn't want to be that way. And so I would get upset and raise my voice and curse because I would be interrupted and not heard and cut off, and he would do things that were against my will because he would not give me the information to make an informed decision. He would withhold things, which is very triggering, and I couldn't make a decision for myself. I had somebody else controlling how I would see things, and he would try to tell me that he was allowed to do whatever he wanted, like I should just be okay with it, and even though I was saying I wasn't okay with it. So that was why I would get so upset. And finally I learned, can't change anyone. Let him go with his life. That's not who I want. That's not what I want. Anyway, so that's all for today. All right, bye.